Have you ever been promised a lead generator or a lead magnet from some vendor or partner of yours, and you get your hands on it and it doesn't actually do anything for you? Or have you ever looked at a lead magnet that was talked up and marketed really well to you, but then you see it and you're like, this thing is lame. How is this going to help anybody? That to me is it's such a common experience. Lead magnets, most of the time we just like spit out this drivel thinking that any content is better than no content. And oftentimes that is not the case. I want to talk to you about Michael Bakaic. I just recently learned how to say his name the right way, and apparently I had been saying it the wrong way for a while. Sorry, Mike. But Mike is from Iceberg Cyber. He's really not a lead magnet guy. He's a cyber audit guy, but Michael has found a real niche, and he's found a really powerful way of permutating the cybersecurity auditing resource that he develops for his company into a really powerful lead generator for MSP. So his whole approach to doing that, I think, is really fascinating. Plus, it's just a cool interview to hear a guy who's out there sort of transparently building his business and really humbly learning from his mistakes. He made some big whopper of mistakes that he talks about in this interview. So listen, it's a really cool guy, really great interview, and a lot of really interesting stuff about lead magnets. Let's get into it. Mike, my man, I'm so glad we finally got this scheduled. Thanks for being on the podcast.
My pleasure, Brian. Great to be on the show.
Yeah. I won't ask you if you're enjoying the podcast, because then you're going to have to lie and say you've been listening to it. When we both know, I don't know if I've made the cut yet for your list of podcasts, but we've talked about podcasts a lot. You're a podcast guy, right?
I got the podcast. I chew through audiobooks like nobody's business, but I like to throw in some podcasts just for flavor. I'm doing Malicious Life this week, which is like a cybersecurity tech podcast. Great stories. The one that I'm listening to, I started this morning. It's about a supply chain attack. The Israeli government was trying to disrupt Hezbollah last September, October, something like that. So they intercepted the supply chain of beepers, like pagers, that Hezbollah was using to communicate. Fascinating story, curious ethical considerations, but fascinating story nonetheless. So there's a plug for Malicious Life podcast.
I think I heard something about that. Yeah, the beeper situation, and they were tinkering with some beepers, right?
It's called Operation Grim Beeper instead of Grim Reaper. And the actors, let's call them neutral terms, the actors infiltrated the supply chain and placed explosives in thousands of beepers that recipients ended up getting. And then the explosives were all triggered by a remote radio signal at the same time. With the audience can imagine what the consequences of that was, or you can listen to the Malicious Life podcast. No comment from me on that.
Yeah, understood. Well played. Well, very diplomatically told story. Well done.
From the cybersecurity mind, like supply chain attack, physical supply chain attack. Curious to learn from. Geopolitics, that's outside of the realm of this show. But listeners can go check out Malicious Life.
I love that about you. Like, we've had a lot of conversations about sales because you're sort of, you kind of become a de facto salesperson, but you really are a tech guy.
Yes.
And you're a cyber guy.
I am a mechanical engineer.
Right. I am not. I'm a salesperson, and anybody who listens to me know that they have forgotten more than I will ever know about cybersecurity. I've sold more cybersecurity than most people I know. But in terms of the specifics of all the zeros and ones, no, I don't know how to do that. I can't build a server. I know how to explain a hypervisor to somebody so that they understand what the cloud means as it pertains to them paying money for it, which is all. As long as you can explain it enough to get somebody to pay you for it, then I think you understand. That's all. That's really what we're trying to achieve from my perspective, right? But I'm aware that some of the audience might be unfamiliar with you. talk real quick about who you are and what your company and what you're doing.
Right on. Hello, everyone. If we haven't met already, great to meet you. My name is Michael Bakaic. I'm Canadian from Toronto. So if you were in the southeast of the United States feeling the cold last week, that was me because I was in Florida and I brought the cold with me. Iceberg Cyber is my current startup. Here's a little bit of the background story. Yes, I am an engineer from the University of Toronto. Then I went to college at the University of Alaska. So here's where like the cold theme with Iceberg Cyber comes in. But I had another startup for the preceding like 8 years before Iceberg. And this is part of the formation of what we're doing now. It was a tech company run by 2 engineers. So red flags already should be in people's minds because we were 2 tech people trying to make technology. We were not business people. We were scared of sales. We didn't like sales. I have a distinct memory, which still haunts me now, about how I argued against paying a salesperson commission because I didn't think they were worth the commission because engineers were building all the value in our company. Okay, that mindset led to us going out of business. Okay, because we made the quintessential tech startup mistake, and you could say tech company mistake, that the technology sells itself. If you hear anyone say that, cry a silent tear for them because they're on the wrong path. Nothing sells itself. Yeah. Nothing sells itself.
Right.
So I blew through almost $5 million of other people's money in 8 years. I blew through it.
Wow.
And I live with that now. And fortunately, I started Iceberg because I like computers and I wanted to do something with the computers, but still going down the wrong path, thinking technology would be the savior for sales. And again, the first year of Iceberg, we weren't doing anything cool. We were spending money. We were writing software that no one cared for until my business coach told me to smarten up and read some sales training books, and things started to click for me. And that's really I got the books right here. I brought them for Brian, but that's like my whole ethos right now is trying to rescue the same people that were in my shoes, like thinking technology was going to sell itself and save them. Like, you're going downhill. We're trying to make people like sales. Get those tech minds to like sales because they're like, it's fun for me now. It's really fun for me. I like doing sales way more than software development. It's fun. I'm trying to get that mindset shift so that we can still achieve our ultimate goal, which is getting the security to the people that need it.
Right. Wow. Okay, a lot to unpack there. First of all, I knew that you had done a startup before. I didn't really know any of the story of it. And you raised again for Iceberg, right?
Bootstrapped. Iceberg Cyber is bootstrapped. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Which we can talk about. Come back to that.
Okay, got it. So there's 2 main things I want to pull away from here. First of all, you are a walking testimony to the fact that something that you don't know how to do is just like, you need to add the word "yet" to everything that you say you don't know how to do, right? Have you heard that?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a good salesperson yet.
Yes.
Because you were the classic, you hated sales so much that you did not understand performance-based compensation.
I argued against
with a guy who with a guy who had other people's money to write the commission checks with at the time.
Exactly.
And you just did not value it. So you could say that you were on the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of a sales personality and a temperament. You were not raised as a salesperson, trained as a salesperson, didn't think like a salesperson. And then finally you realized, oh, the only way for my mission to be fulfilled is if people buy my product.
That's right.
And the only way they're going to buy my product is if I figure out how to sell it to them.
That's right. Especially in the startup world, there is a long-standing, pervasive misconception that if you build it, they will come. It is long-standing. I'm not the first person to say it, and it kills businesses because it's a mental crutch. It is way easier, and I'm speaking from experience, it's way easier to hide behind the keyboard or in the lab tinkering with R&D, hoping that the next product feature breakthrough will unlock sales. That's easy because you don't have to deal with rejection. Like you don't have to pick up the phone and someone hang up on you. It's way easier.
Right.
And that's what way too many people do.
Right. Inventors should not be in charge of anything. Inventors should be in a lab left alone to invent things. This is what I believe. And to what you just said, if a startup is not led by a salesperson, it is very unlikely that that startup will succeed. That's my opinion. Okay, I'm not telling you have to have a sales background. What I'm telling you is if you expect to run a startup, you have to sell. Mm-hmm. That's a fair statement.
We're going through all the books. So if you started your own business, this is not just for tech startups, not at all. This is for anyone that wants to be an entrepreneur. This book, Founder Brand, David Gerhardt.
Put it right in front of your face so our split screen sees it too. Okay.
And Dave's huge on LinkedIn, so he's going to pump this podcast. Thank you, Dave. Founder Brand. This is really just telling people like that start a business, entrepreneurs, that there's not going to be any more effective salesperson than you. You may not be the one doing the cold calls. You may not be the one doing the cold emails, but especially in the formative stages of your business, you got to be the one out there doing the sales. And that may mean grinding through cold calls. It may mean that because our lizard brains don't want to hear a cold call from an SDR. No one really enjoys that. But like you talk to someone and say, hey, you got 30 seconds for me to tell you about the business that I started? That's a power move that only the founder of the company can do. And that's the same as picking up the phone and saying, do you need IT? Click. Except it's much more effective.
Yeah.
So that.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's everything. You're absolutely right. It's absolutely everything. The technology, no product sells itself. You could look to some historical examples, and you could always, there's always a counterpoint for anything that you don't want to be true. So you could hear us saying this, and you could go pull some examples, but even look at Steve Jobs was not the engineer. Steve Jobs is a salesperson.
Yeah, are we talking
Steve
about
Jobs
the iPhone?
didn't build stuff.
The iPhone was not the first full-screen touch phone. It was not the first smartphone. Like, the iPhone sells like hotcakes because it makes people feel great about themselves.
Right.
And that happened because Steve manifested that feeling in everyone with everything that he did to launch the product. Right. Case in point, he wasn't the guy who built it all. He was a visionary, but Steve was not the lead designer of any real core product. He had people around him doing the work alongside him. What made him so great was his ability to sell. And he sold using story. I think you could look at anybody. Phil Knight, like I'm from Eugene, Oregon, where Phil Knight, the founder and CEO, is very famous there. We literally call him Uncle Phil because Phil Knight dumps millions of dollars into Eugene trying to make that city more exciting. And the University of Oregon, he bought built $100 million basketball arena for the lowest ranking team in the division. And then they started hitting playoffs because that's how you win sports games, is you throw money at it. But he sold Nike shoes that he made on the U of O campus. He made tennis shoes with a waffle iron in his bathtub. That's how he made soles of shoes and sold them out of his van. And now he started Nike because he sold them. He wasn't just a guy saying, I'm going to make these things and they're going to be so perfect that everybody will come and buy it. Case in point, if you're an MSP, especially if you're an MSP, when the truth is there's nothing proprietary about what you're actually doing. At least about the tech.
Together the same,
like that. That's the important part.
Right. You're stringing together the same tools. You might have your own spin on some open source stuff. Maybe you built your own, call it enablement software internally, but there's not something you're deploying probably onto your end users' devices that you invented.
You shouldn't.
And so
that doesn't sound like a resilient idea.
No. So case in point, like the need will not sell itself. The product will not sell itself. In some ways, your story will not sell itself. Like you have to have the story and then you have to sell the story.
Well, this is a big thing that Dave put in his book is someone's going to tell your story. Someone is going to tell it. If you don't go out there and tell it, someone else will tell it. And if you're in a competitive landscape, if you're trying to do managed services in a competitive landscape, someone else is going to tell your story. They're going to say, oh, that company, they got bad customer service, or they don't do this, or we're best in class. Don't use those cliches. We're best in class. So someone else is telling your story now. You better go and tell yours.
Dude, we came onto this podcast ready to talk lead gen, and I think we will talk lead gen. But I think this is a pretty existential where we're at, and I think we need to keep coming at this from a bunch of different angles, because you're a tech turned. I met you, full-fledged sales guy.
Yes.
I didn't even know you had an engineering background until like 6 to 12 months into meeting you. It's not like I didn't think.
We have a fun intertwined origin story, the two of us, you and I, because we did our first Fort Mesa show together May 2023. I was still going in the wrong direction. So like I was talking, I was talking about vulnerability monitoring and stuff. Still a tech solution to a problem that not many people have, especially in the prospecting game. When you called me in October with your idea for the IT Nation spinoff event, that day I bought this audiobook. Okay, I got both of Hermosi's book, and I listened to them the day that you called me, because this was a coincidence that my business coach said, you got to read these books because you suck and you need to learn how to get better. I said, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. That I remember the day because it's formative for me, because from that moment I went from like this downward spiral to everything. Like I love talking about sales now. I'm not rolling in the dough, but emotionally I really like talking about sales and learning and figuring out what I'm doing wrong, and listening to feedback is easier now, because now when someone rejects me, I think, okay, I know how to listen for the feedback. I might get better. Yeah. Keep listening. So I was in the Netherlands on a trip, and you called me, and the IT Nation event, fun learning lesson, but otherwise many fun things that happened from that engagement.
Yeah, that's even a story in itself. Like we did an event together. It bombed. Like it didn't work. But out of that came this pivot. I'm not going to give that event credit. I'm not trying to take credit for your transition that you're describing, but out of that came a momentum shift for you. Mm-hmm. Out of that even came, you could say to the listener, there was another guy involved in that event named Taher. And because that event happened, that became the first blueprint for what later then became ScaleCon. Mm-hmm. And Taher, comment on this, like shout me out on LinkedIn if what I'm saying is not true. But I'm almost sure I remember Taher saying that exact thing, that like, okay, we did that first event, and then he was like, okay, there's chum in the water now. Like, okay, I want to do more. All right, I want to do more events. And so we put on an event. It cost us more money than we got back. That's why I say it bombed. I'm not going to say that nobody got anything out of it.
It was almost $1,000 per head for dinner.
Right. And we all ended up with like, Ziploc bags full of shrimp cocktail because we went all out on this thing. It didn't work for lots of reasons.
Fortunately, some of them were booze in Florida. That was a save.
Yeah.
That was how bad the party was. We had to return the booze.
Right. Cases of it. So there were some reasons that failed out of our control, a lot of reasons in our control that we all learned from, but and then you got to, fortunately, you got to be around a lot of people who bomb all the time, like points to self, like me. I fail. I'm a professional failer. Because I'm a professional salesperson. I bomb all the time, and I just have such a good relationship with failure emotionally that I'm successful.
Yeah.
Not because I don't fail, but because of my perspective on failure. And Robert Gillette and I had a whole interview about that exact topic. But dude, you made a decision where you were like, okay, it's worth it to like rewrite my perspective on this. Mm-hmm. And in fact, hang on, let me even say this. Let me ask you this. Was that an immediate, in your head, was it a light switch aha moment? Or was it a series of decisions that helped you kind of, was it more perpetual that transition towards being sales-minded happened?
October was a pretty clear inflection point.
Okay.
I first started Iceberg December 2022. That was when we all started going full time. There was 3 of us. That first year, like we were moving in a direction that was an idea that we created internally without any market feedback, which is a complicated way of saying, hey, we thought it would be cool to make a vulnerability scanning product with the naive ignorance that there are dozens of these already. So people would say, well, what
Good
makes you
ones,
different?
too.
Oh, it's tons. Like I could name them for you. But
Yeah.
we were doing stuff. Like we weren't working towards a goal. We were doing stuff. And I knew that. And I was banking on myself that I would figure something out. Like I was laying the tracks while standing on the front of the train engine. That was what every day was, trying to rapidly figure out what was a better idea. We had some knocks in the right direction through that summer where I was on prospecting calls, sales calls, and I was getting rejected. And then a couple people were saying, hey, if you did this as a prospecting tool, like forget the vulnerability monitoring, vulnerability management. Clients don't pay for that. We can't afford it. We can't upsell this. And I'm like, okay. But then someone said, hey, can I just use this to do a quick scan for a prospecting engagement? I thought, yeah, okay, that's cool. We could do like that. Then we came up with some other ideas. Then October, I finally smartened up and read these sales books. And that was an immediate mindset shift. I was feeling like garbage. I was feeling like garbage when you called me in October. I was feeling like garbage. I also
really?
like that time I knew we were going downhill, and I said to myself, we got to like change this around. I've been working out and logging workouts. You and I have been chit-chatting about it on LinkedIn. I've been logging workouts for 486 days back to October 2nd when you called me. And I have it in an Excel sheet right on my monitor. 486 days. Today's 486th. Because I said to myself, shoot, the only way to get better is to like get into some systems that are making me better. Reading the books, that's making me better. Getting in shape, that's a net positive no matter what else happens, and at least give me the experience of being disciplined enough to stay in a routine. So I've had this Excel sheet open on my desktop and my laptop every single day for 486 days, and I've worked out 355 of them. Tonight's a big day. It's 356. And it's not a coincidence that I'm in a better position business-wise now than October 2nd, 2023.
Wow.
So formative. It was a big day.
Yeah. I've had a lot of those. I've actually had a lot of those in my life, not many more like personally, I'll say spiritually, even like as a human being, where you're like, okay, there was a moment, here's a story I don't share very often, but there's a moment in my mid-20s where all of a sudden it's like I was in my house putting around doing nothing, and I walked into the bathroom, turned the light on, I looked at myself in the mirror, and all of a sudden I looked at myself, and it wasn't shame, but my inner dialogue looked at myself and was like, oh, you're a loser. Like, you've kind of become a loser. And I mean, that day I called out sick from work to play video games in my underwear. My laundry was like day 2 sitting in the washer, hadn't put it in the dryer. And I've been very vocal in the past. I've been very open, but this summer I will be 10 years sober of drugs. And that was a big thing of just like, I was just a loser. There's no other way to put it. But what all of a sudden my inner dialogue articulated it in a way that did something for me. I said, the woman of your dreams would walk by you right now, roll her eyes, and keep walking. Because I was single, and I was like, I don't want to be single forever. It's like the kind of woman that you want to end up with would never talk to you because you're a loser. And this isn't really who you are. This is just how you're acting. Because I had just fallen down this hole. And substance was a big part of it, personally. Like, I was just a loser. Like I couldn't really make it through a day with my own thoughts. So I was just like, I just got to smoke weed and drink this warm Coors Light and just try to get out of get out of this moment because it's not really tolerable for me. And that was that day I forever changed. I actually, if I'm not mistaken, it was either that day or within 14 days of that day that I never did drugs again, ever. And I've never gone back, never even been tempted to go back. And I was a pretty major user. I have no alcohol issues. I have none of that. And addiction, I'm a family line, like 5th generation, 4 generations ahead of me were alcoholics. You know, like that's on both sides. It's just in my stars. And I was like, I'm just going to change these. I got to change these stars because I'm not comfortable with this. And that began one of my many things that turns my life around. And in business, I remember it was similar. I was getting my life back together. And then my then girlfriend, I had a girlfriend less than a year away from that. And then I married that woman 2 years later, and I will have been with her for 9 years in June of this year. And it's amazing. And the truth is, if she met me that day, I would have never gotten a second date. You know what I mean? But I remember, like, then I had a job at Starbucks. I was coming back after being an actor where my life was kind of in shambles. And she was like, aren't you like, don't you do like sales and stuff? It's like, yeah, I've done that before. And yeah, I like selling. She was like, why don't you just go get a better job? I'm like, well, I'm kind of doing this right now. She's like, but why don't you just get a better one? Mm-hmm. So I went on Craigslist, looked at one job, sent out one application, boom. 20 days later, my income doubled. And that just kept happening to me over and over again because I had these decisions, and I figured out how to take an honest assessment of myself without it becoming like shame and self-destructive, being like, oh, you stupid sack of crap, blah, blah. And then nothing happens, right? Like, but ultimately, if you're like, no, I am better than the version of myself that I'm currently portraying to the world. And I'm not comfortable with where I am. And I have something inside of me where I can do something about it. I might not have the skills today, but those skills are acquirable. And so I have what it takes to acquire them. So then you start reading, you start doing YouTube, you start getting humble, you start meeting people, and you have this huge transformation. Again, that's my story. I'm not trying to map that onto you. I realize those are different stories, but that was one of many. That's just the most visceral one I could remember off the top. But even professionally, I've had 5 or 6 of those pivots. I remember one time this guy, I told him what I was charging, and he went, why are you charging that little? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, this is what it's worth. And he goes, says who? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And in hindsight, the version of the product it was much less than now. But my product has gone up, let me do the math, 8 times. It is 800% higher. My price is 800% higher than it was that day. Mm-hmm. Simply because somebody had to be like, you're not charging enough. Yeah. No, you're wrong. No, that's an excuse. You need to charge more without making it any better. And I did that. And then the product is way better than it was then. But I know you and I have had that conversation too about pricing and value and all that stuff. But I don't know. I guess I'll kick it back over to you. And for the MSP listening, who might be saying any of the things that you and I have said to ourselves in those moments, in those lows. What are your thoughts for those listeners?
Well, we both have very similar stories where in hindsight, it looks like, we were both struck by lightning and our trajectories changed. Yeah. It looks like that in hindsight. On the day after, like strike +1, it doesn't look like that. It just looks like we went to the gym once or I read one book. Yeah. There's something empowering there, like it didn't take much. It took a look in the mirror for Brian and for me, like starting to listen to this audiobook, like in one night I got through an hour of it. Well, the gym session for the first time, I got through the first hour, and that was like, okay, like I can stick to this. What I was saying to myself was, if you want to get better, like it comes from doing a process more than once. I don't know how to do the sales process more than once. I don't know how to do the prospecting process. I barely still know how to run a business, Brian, but I can work out. Okay, so if I can work out, then at least I'm doing the Darren Hardy compound effect 1% better of something that I know how to do. That'll teach me how to get into that rhythm of improvement for something I don't know how to do. That was sort of what I was thinking. And I'm not explaining that in hindsight. That was my thing. I was like, if meatheads can go to the gym every day and get jacked, I can do it. And at least that will teach me how to do other things consistently. And I did, like, I was working out for a couple months, then I copied this same spreadsheet, and I have the same spreadsheet, like on my tasks. I have my workout spreadsheet and my LinkedIn invite spreadsheet. And I've been running the LinkedIn invite, the same format, the same template every single day since December 31st. No, December 8th. Scroll to the top. December 8th. So like 2 months after, identical. Because that was my next step was, okay, now at least I can do something every single day, 1% in the right direction. And the same business coach, he was saying, like, you got to get on LinkedIn because you're talking to no one. That's going to resonate with a lot of MSPs. If you're talking to no one, well, talking to somebody, even if they're not the vertical you want to be in the future, or, you know, like they're not a perfect ICP, forget that. If you're talking to no one, talk to somebody. So that's what I did. I just started like inviting everyone that could be in my area. And I've been doing that for 434 days. Thankfully, Excel gives me these quick numbers right in front of my face. And now, like, I'm cracking 10K followers on LinkedIn imminently. Like, it's this week or next week. And it started, I was over at 1,700. you know?
Amazing. Yeah.
1%
I get a lot of business from LinkedIn, and you're over double my connections and followers because of all these things you're describing. And I mean, and by the way, I send connection requests every day, and I do all that, and I post every day, and I do all those things too. It's not as, clearly you're doing something right. You're doing something great, and you're getting results.
In the Warren Buffett method, I've just been doing it longer. I think that's the only thing, because LinkedIn limits all of us to how many invites we can send. So there's no hacking there.
Right.
You know, I get some organic because, you know, I think I post okay stuff, and some people come organic, but most of it is me going and doing the outbound and then chit-chatting with a lot of people. Like, there's a lot of conversation flow going on, and I've been doing it for 2 and a bit years. So that's it. Yeah. It compounds.
Man. I'm hearkening back to a conversation I had 2 days ago with, literally, I mean, 2 days ago, I met with a guy who said, you know, I finally come to terms with the fact that I'm just not a salesman. I'm just not going to be a salesman. He owns his own MSP, 20 years in business, a little under 2 million in revenue. And he's like, okay, I've just finally accepted it. He's like, I've tried this vendor and I've tried this vendor. And I almost named him. He's tried a couple vendors that you would know their names. And he's like, I just finally accepted. I'm just not that guy. And it's just not going to work for me. And yet he's on the phone with me. And I'm like, then what do you think I'm going to do for you? I'm a coach. I'm a trainer. Who am I supposed to train? And like, you could tell that deep down he still wanted the results, but the way he was thinking about it was like as if who he was set in stone. But there is no evidence to suggest or support the belief that who you are is set in stone. In fact, I mean, just taking the scientific method, we have a half a dozen counterexamples in this conversation in the last 30 minutes that would prove that statement is not true, that who you are is not set in stone. If so facto, that means who you are is malleable. What you're good at is malleable. What you're capable of can change. The question is, are you going to do something with that information, or are you not?
I think the limiting belief there comes from how someone defines a salesperson, which unfortunately, like, the stronger memories in their muscle memory are bad experiences. So they just assign those bad experiences, like the quintessential used car salesperson, to what they think they should be and say, no, I can't be like that. Okay. Yeah. Well, we got a goal to get to. So you either let the rules break you, or you got to rewrite the rules in your favor. Like, there are many colors in the salesperson rainbow. Just be a different one to get to your same goal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. You have to define. Many times when we're trying to become something, or we have to become a salesperson, if we don't want who we are to be defined by what we're trying to not become.
Right.
And to use some psychology language, the actual technical definition for this phenomenon is trauma. If you have a trauma, for example, your parents were a certain way and they traumatized you, then you have kids and you say, I'm never going to do blank. I'm never going to do what my parents did. So you start parenting as being the antithesis of what your parents were. But in reality, your childhood trauma is still parenting your children. It's still the way you parent is being informed by your trauma. So you actually haven't healed from it. You're just resisting it. So until you work through that and then go, okay, I'm going to take the good from what I learned, the bad from what I learned, and I'm going to decide what is it that my children need. Now, that's a much more severe example, but let's take that over. Okay, I've had all these terrible sales experiences, and as a buyer, I have actually been traumatized. That word is not as loaded, and it doesn't have to be a Gen Z little popular word to get out of what you want to do. Trauma is a real thing. It's also trauma is a natural survival instinct that's in our lizard brain you referenced earlier. Like, it's a part of what makes us survive, is we learn about, that's what trauma is for, is to remember experiences that we want to avoid in the future. So you have these traumatizing buying experiences where these salespeople didn't listen to you. They were awful to you. They were super arrogant. They just bullied you the whole time. Or they told you something was true and it wasn't true, but you had to sign a contract and now you were stuck. So, okay, great. But dude, you got to heal through that perspective, because it's suffocating your ability to run your business.
Yeah. I think that's the ultimate takeaway is like, you can't run a business without sales. Otherwise you're a R&D department. You're a cost center.
Yeah.
Like that's what defines it as a business, is exchanging value for money. You could be a charity, but if you want to be a business, you have to exchange value for money. And the way that you get the money is through sales.
Yeah.
How you do that is up to you. Like, there are many, there's thousands of books on this. There's different personas. There are many colors to the salesperson rainbow. You just have to pick one that you can do and then do it.
Yeah. Or you do what I did and spend years and years in therapy and years in R&D and create your own. That's what I did. That's what the feel good close is.
Yeah, or you abdicate. Like that's probably you and I see that most frequently, is that someone will come and say, I want to hire an agency to do it. I'm going to hire a salesperson. That unfortunately, most of the time it's perceived as delegating, but that's wishful thinking, because you're just abdicating and hoping someone else will solve the most important problem that your business has, which is finding the people to give you the money for the value that you want to deliver. There's no other problem.
Yes.
There's no other problem that you should be focused on.
Yeah, dude, you're 100% right. I don't like to use, there's this kind of condescending term that gets thrown around of like, do you ever hear people say like, real businesses do this. So if you don't do this, you're not a real business. Like, a lot of people say that stuff. If you can't leave your business for 90 days and nothing changes, you don't have a real business. Okay, that's bullshit. That's not true. Are you telling me a doctor isn't a real business? Like, it's just not true. However, if you cannot sell your product, you are a department for another business who has not yet acquired you, but you're not a business.
Yeah.
To your point, if you can't reliably exchange money for your services, your business is not going to succeed. Mm-hmm. And I'm not being a bully by telling you that. I'm stating a fact that you need to understand. And so if you're coming to us saying, no, I just want to do it better. My MSP was bad and I'm sick of having a boss. That's all great. Those are not qualifiers for being a business owner. They're not qualifiers for being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are salespeople.
You got to be. I mean, there's no other definition. I do hear I started my business because I wanted to be my own boss. If you're thinking that, newsflash, that's not a great experience. I am my own boss.
Right.
It's not a comforting experience most of the time. It's fun when it's working, but the trough can go real low before it starts working.
Yeah.
And you got to face these demons. Like, if you want to be your own boss and you don't like sales, I don't think it's going to be a good recipe. I don't think that's going to feel good.
Yeah. I don't think there's a human being on the earth who doesn't have a boss.
Sure. I mean, we're all working for something. Wherever the money's coming from, that's the boss.
Yeah. If you have a job, then your boss is your boss. If you own a company, then your boss is your customers. And if you have salespeople, you see what I'm saying? Once you build a good company, then your boss are your employees. That's how Gary Vee says it. Like you got to eventually figure it out that you work for those people. And because they're lining your retirement. They're making your pool bigger and bigger by the day if they're good at their job. They're putting your kids through private school. Your employees are. They're your boss. And your job is to serve and support those people. That's what real leadership, in my perspective, is to actually empower the people who are creating wealth for you to keep doing it. So yeah, we all think, I have a boss I don't like. I would like to be my own boss. But if you want to be your own boss and you have 3 customers, you just have 3 bosses. And they pay your paycheck, and it comes as a form of an invoice, but it's the same situation. So if you truly want true financial freedom, then that's going to come from either inheriting financial freedom from in the form of a bunch of money, or you have to have the ability to create wealth, which is what sales is. You have to have the ability to create revenue out of thin air. You have to take a list of phone numbers, turn it into dollars. That's financial freedom, right?
Totally. I'm living the transition still. Like back to the Genesis story. I once argued against paying a salesperson commission, and look where that got me. That company is no longer.
Right.
I don't work there.
Dude.
That was an R&D department for nobody.
Yeah.
And we learned very, very expensive lessons. And it wasn't until a year and a half after that that the switch started to flip for me. And now, I mean, that's all I think about. I think about sales all the time because I like it. I like thinking about it because in my mind, I know that is the direct path to getting to where I want to go. It would be great if people would come and just buy the product by themselves. That would be awesome.
Right.
I don't think that ever happens. Even for large companies where you can like go to the website and self-serve and purchase, that's an arc that has been built on a lot of direct sales, then referral programs and like affiliate programs and like a lot of marketing. But that's all part of the sales process to get to now it can be very self-served. That's fine. But it's still built on, at some point in the beginning, you have to look at someone else and say, do you have a problem? Yes. I have a solution for that problem. Would you like this solution in exchange for your money? Yes. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah, 100%, man. Would you ever raise money again, do you think? For Iceberg or for something else, like having gone through it?
Okay, throwing back to the bootstrap comment earlier. I'm on the bootstrap kick. I'm loving it. It is a bigger challenge. Okay, there's no right or wrong recipe to starting a business. The last business, we raised money from investors. At the time, it sounded like a good idea. I don't know retrospectively if it was, but at the time, it was a fine idea. Now, like, people ask me, investors come and say, Iceberg looks like they're doing something great. We want to invest. And I say, yeah, that's cool. Give me your info and I will call you if I want to, because I plan on selling my way out of this problem. Like if I need money, I want to sell something to get the money, because I find that to be the challenge that keeps me aligned to the goal more. Raising cap, like getting an investor is a sales process. That's a whole sales process, which most people don't understand. Right. They think it's like, you just got to find someone that's going to give you the money. No, you're selling them. That's a sales process.
Yes.
I think I can make it, and I'm really adamant to try and not have to raise external capital. Like I want to sell my way out of any problem, because if I can do that, that also means that the business is going in the right direction.
Yeah.
To run a fundraising process is a huge distraction for a startup. Like it may end up being a good thing for you to do, but it is a huge distraction, because whoever's supposed to be doing sales, like the founder, because that's the only person, they're not doing sales to customers. They're doing sales to investors now for 4 months. I'd rather spend.
Oh, minimum. Sometimes it's much
if you're
longer.
Good at it. If you're good at it, 3-4 months. You run a tight
Yeah.
process. You treat it like a sales process. You can do that. But I'd rather focus
But if
on
you
sales.
can't, yeah, if you can't sell, then no amount of money, all money is going to do is just lengthen the runway before you crash and burn again. But
Yeah.
if you can't sell, then you should then raising money is actually a much bigger risk.
It is a huge risk. It is a huge risk because
but if you know you can sell, then like, okay, I could have raised money. I talked to some people about raising money for Feel Good under very good very favorable terms for me because I'm a great salesperson. But the more I looked into it, I went, okay, I know that I'm going to sell my product. And all I would do with this money is take higher risk channels, higher risks, all on revenue generating expenses. I'd sponsor events that I wouldn't sponsor with my own money. I would hire people faster than I would have otherwise.
Yeah.
So I'm realizing I'm just taking all these risks simply because it's not my money. So then the question became, okay, if I pulled, let's say I was trying to raise $500,000. If I pulled $500,000 out of my retirement, would I make every single decision exactly the same as I would have with that investor's $500,000? No, then you should not use the $500,000.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. That was just for me.
Yeah.
So MSPs, there's a lot of capital trying to come in because everybody's trying to buy MSPs. And one of the ways I want to do it is even a cash position because the MSP might not be ready to roll up and standardize, like integrate into a larger platform. So maybe they say, hey, we'll give you $750,000 and we'll take this synthetic equity and blah, blah, blah. We'll do a convertible note or something. Just keep in mind that if you want to raise money, if you don't know how to sell, what's going to happen is you're going to be out of money.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing will have changed on the biz dev side. You don't have any more customers to show for it. You just have more stuff. You have more expenses.
Mm-hmm. You have a weight around your foot and you're trying to swim.
Yeah.
Because it's yanking you down because someone's like, I gave you that money. Like I took millions of dollars from other human beings and I burnt it. That's a weight. It wasn't free money for them. It wasn't disposable. They were not happy.
Right.
That's a weight. And yeah, I am
right.
I have the trauma there and I'm trying to operationalize it constructively. Like I have the trauma there, no doubt. And now when I hear other startups, because you go to like the other startup things and everyone's saying, oh, I raised money. Like it's a win. But you haven't sold anything.
Yeah.
What's your value prop?
No.
What's your value equation at all? Oh yeah, we got this great technology. That's awesome. Who would buy it? Anyone with data. Oh, really? Okay, you got problems and you have $2 million of pressure on the back of your neck now. So I don't know if that's not the thing. That's not the vibe I'm going for right now.
Yeah, right. Raising money is not an achievement. It's an obligation.
Totally. Oftentimes that you don't realize until you get to the wrong end of the rainbow and you realize, wow, this is not good to look at someone in the face and say, I wasted your $2 million. I want more. I have not gotten any better because I wasted $2 million and I haven't been able to break even.
Right. We just have a bunch of people doing a bunch of tasks.
Yeah.
Man, how are you on time? Because I want to keep talking.
I got time. I thought you had something at 5.
Yeah, it rescheduled.
Oh, good.
I had a sales call and they emailed me and said, no need to meet. We'll just move forward. So,
okay. Pertinent to
so
this
I just closed the deal
thinking.
sitting here.
Oh, nice. Congrats. Have you read Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time?
No.
Okay.
I've read an embarrassingly small amount of sales books and business
This isn't even about sales. It's a good business book. It's a really good business book. It's short. The title's called Buy Back Your Time, so it should be short. The core concept is find out how much your hourly rate is and use that as an agenda planner to say anything that I'm not, that's not making value at more than $50 an hour, delegate. Then the really important thing is he says he recommends delegating in the order of administrative tasks, delivery, customer delivery, like the onboarding and the check-ins and the success stories and the testimonials, then marketing, and sales only last. Because sales is the hardest, most dynamic, creative thing that you can't relinquish your feedback loop on until the end.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. And that feeds into what we're talking about, because tons of times you see startups, like, they get a bunch of money, they hire a bunch of people, and the people are just running around doing stuff.
Yeah.
And the reason that they come out the other end of that experience with less money in the bank is because they just hired people to earn a paycheck, but there was no system. There were no instructions. There were no clear deliverables, because there's no system. How could you measure success if there's no system? And then they waste a bunch of money and they come back looking for more.
Right.
I see it daily
do
with
we
the
find,
MSPs. Go ahead.
Yeah, we see it in the MSPs who, okay, maybe delegating admin because MSP owners hate it. But when we're talking admin, we're talking what? Payroll, bookkeeping. That's kind of what we're talking about for an MSP side. And then there's the technical admin. There's the tier, like, call that the help desk.
That's your second level from Dan Martell. That's your value delivery. Like, that's you delivering the product. That's good.
And then from there, they hire a marketing agency, usually, and they say, I'll just get all the leads. Usually that's where the breakdown really starts from an MSP perspective, because that's where the abdication starts as well, because the owner doesn't really have the wherewithal to figure out positioning in an incredibly competitive industry that we're in. Positioning is everything. And so we say, well, that's what the agency is for. That is not what agencies are for. If that worked, we would all be zillionaires. You know what I'm saying? If you gotta remember that. If fully outsourcing sales and marketing worked every time, nobody would ever have any problems getting any customers. But statistically, we find that it works a minority of the time. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. It means it almost never works. And there's reasons for that. So, like what you're describing, that's the outsourcing. That's actually my matrix. I look at how much I bill an hour. I discount it slightly because I can't guarantee that I'll bill X. I can't always project how many number of hours I'll bill. But when I started, it was like, this is how much I bill an hour. Anything less than that, I'm not going to do. But then you got to have a top line revenue that pays for all that outsourcing. So you have to get some reliable income coming in. But yeah, when to me, that's kind of always been the approach, is doing what you're describing. But I have to keep the key, like, let everybody keep their superpower, and let everybody keep the things that they ought not replace or they ought not outsource. So for a founder, like, you should be involved in sales at some capacity until you hit whatever revenue number or where you can successfully pass the torch to someone else. And maybe that's hiring a coach or consultant or somebody, a RevOps person, to build the process and train your people. If you don't know how to do it, then somebody's got to learn how to do it. Or bring in a biz dev partner and put them on the cap table so that they actually care about it working, or however you decide to do it.
I think that's an important footnote, is like, when someone's considering hiring a salesperson or outsourcing a salesperson, I think a harsh truth to remember is that people that are good at sales make a lot of money because not a lot of people are good at sales. So the ones that are good at sales know they're good and go to where they're going to be paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
So if you're on a budget and you try and find a budget salesperson, you have to understand who you're attracting. Like, if they were really good, and this is just a harsh reality, like, this is the equation. If they were really good at sales, they would be going for the highest paying job possible.
Yeah.
Because they're great at sales, and not a lot of people are.
Yeah. Right.
So, and like, this is where we got to pay into it with ourselves, because if we start the company, there's no one else to pay into it. It's coming from us. And if you're not good at it, then just get better. Like, this is the only equation that you got for yourself. You could try and outsource, but if they were really good at it, they'd be making more money. You wouldn't be able to afford them, right? Well, that's a harsh reality. Yeah. So, like, pick up a book. Even when you try and go to an agency, you gotta, like Brian said, like, if they were really good at it, they would be making a ton of money. They'd be charging you more. You know, if you're getting a discount price from an agency, is because they might not be great at it. They're charging you for inputs and not for outputs.
Right. They're selling their time, which means they're not probably very good at what they do.
I just audited a quote from some marketing agency to one of my MSPs. She showed me the quote, and it was like $1,500 a month. And the quote had a line item for like 1,000 email opens on marketing emails. Okay. That's input. You're charging for
Okay.
inputs, not booked meetings. Which would be an output of the factory. You're charging for inputs. So I said to her, that's a red flag, because open rates on emails are known garbage number, because Microsoft Safe Links opens all the emails. So like I send myself an email, open. In MailChimp or MailerLite, you'll see it as an open. I didn't open the email, but they're charging her. They quoted her for email opens. That's bogus. But she wouldn't know that because she's trying to delegate to them, and they're happy to take her money. So like that's the risk that you run when you try and delegate, because the word that you should be saying is abdicate, because you don't know, you haven't tried yourself. And I know it takes time and it takes money and it takes effort to try yourself, but otherwise you run the risk of that being taken advantage of.
Yeah. And it bears mentioning that what we're describing is, okay, you got to get good at sales. There's a very good chance that when you make this pivot, mindset wise, you start upskilling yourself, that you'll actually fall in love with it. And this is what you'll want to do. There's also a chance that you won't. And that's fine. We're not telling you that you have to be a salesperson forever. You have to be a salesperson until you can financially close the gap to actually afford or subsidize a true salesperson at what they need to be paid, with enough runway, cash runway, and resources where they can be successful. So that's what I do. Like with my MSPs, I'm like, look, we need to figure out what is the MRR number where you've got enough free cash flow to hire a person, support them with marketing, and give them 6 months. And you're not going to be suffocated because you did that. You're not going to be bankrupt. So then we say, okay, if you need to sell another 20,000 MRR and now you can afford to bring in additional help in that area, then our goal is let's hit 20K MRR and reverse engineer that goal. But you have to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So your job is to sell to the point where you can afford to outsource it. That's really all we're looking to do. To your point about earlier, if you're looking for sales guys, there's a great quote that I love, that the best salespeople in the world sell the easiest products to sell. And that's because they can. Because they have the pick of the litter of any job they want.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going to sell your super, super vague, highly expensive, poorly packaged product with a profit-based comp plan that's super muddy. You're not going to get a good person. You're going to get somebody who wants to cut their teeth. It doesn't mean you can't develop a good person. I'm not saying don't ever do it, right? But like, as a salesperson, if you were to write a comp plan or a job description that said, we're 20 years in business, our customers love us, our customers have been with us for 15 years, uncapped commission, largely performance-based, you'll be developing your own scripts. So far, there's actually zero good news on this job description from a sales perspective. Just to be frank, what it sounds like is we're in business because we just haven't gone out of business and we have no clue how we got here. And I'm just going to say uncapped commission because I don't know how to compensate you. But it's not generous to say uncapped commission. That's not generous. I don't think I've seen a commission plan with an actual cap on it in like 10 years. So there's nothing unique about that either. If they keep selling, they should get to keep earning. But there's nothing enticing about that role to a salesperson just yet. I have a great interview with John Davengay about that on this topic, on like how to attract salespeople, which is a sale in and of itself.
It's a sales process, yes, to a person that knows how to sell, which makes it harder.
Yeah, right, and who can spot the BS. You know, I want to pivot really quick though. I want to ask you a couple of questions about lead generation. Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
You do this. So you built this product. And it started as a technical discovery tool, and you quickly realized, or maybe not quickly, but you suddenly realized that, oh, this thing is actually really valuable for generating conversations, not just generating reports.
Yeah.
Talk to me just a little bit about that transition for Iceberg and kind of how that came about. Was that an aha moment, or was that customer feedback? Or
it was customer
feedback. Advice?
It was customer feedback, which we were hunting for. I have it in my notes. I read a book on how to do win-loss analysis. I go to the books. When stuff's not working, I hit the books. read a book on win-loss analysis, which is just a fancy way of saying getting feedback. And I interviewed as many people as I could. Some of them were paying me. Some of them stopped paying me, interviewed them too. Some of them were just prospects and trying to pull info from them to learn like why my baby's ugly and how to not make it ugly anymore. Okay. And through that came this repositioning. It's identical technology. Like our technology hasn't changed. It's the positioning that has changed. So the use case is no longer, do you want to do a vulnerability report for someone, to here's a fun lead magnet that you could show to anyone, and then through successive steps and the right questions, filter anyone into a prospect that very well may pay you money. And that repositioning was like early last year into the summer, and then really started hitting it like August, September. And then ScaleCon came at a perfect time for us, because then I told a bunch of people all at the same time and they all loved it. And I thought, wow, okay, so this is the thing now. It is a lead magnet. It's the cyber lead magnet. That's our thing. And that's how it transitioned from being a security tool that technicians would use. Like in the first year, I was talking to the technicians and like trying to train them on how to do vulnerability assessments and read an asset inventory and patch CVEs. Don't fall asleep, Brian. But people fall asleep at that point, especially when you're telling an MSP that this is a tool that they could use to upsell their clients. Like this is a vendor thing that I hear all the time, is like, I'm going to sell you my tool. I'm going to charge you for the tool first. Then I will help you,
you
sell
pass it through.
Yeah. This like half-hearted will help you sell our product, but you got to buy it from us first. No, that's not good.
Right.
So putting it out at front was a big thing for me. And then we've just been compounding that, like all the new features, the CRM integrations that we're doing, the other prospecting tools, like the videos on how to get contact info from chamber websites. All this stuff is now just adding more goodness to the use it at the top of the funnel. It's the initial lead magnet. Like there's 4 levels of lead magnets in this thing, because I'm all about lead magnets now. Everything's a lead magnet to build trust. So like there's levels of lead magnets. Then there's the real punchy one at the end. It's a way to go from this is a stranger to you just talk to them. Now they trust you a little bit. They trust you a little bit more. They've been vulnerable enough to tell you about their problems. Now you can try and solve it for them.
So, okay, let's say this, iceberg aside, how are you, because you're pretty, you're actually kind of blowing my mind how hands-on you are. You just told me you're flying to Wisconsin.
Yes.
Probably.
Tentative as of 3 hours ago.
So, to sit in on a Chamber of Commerce presentation for one of your MSPs.
Sit in, that sounds passive. Right? I'm no passive guy here, Brian. So
are you running the presentation?
Oh, no, it's way more fun than that.
Okay.
New subscriber. They came saying, we saw the CyberScore lead magnet. We love this type of thing. We have a Chamber of Commerce event coming up at the end of February. And I said, yes, beautiful. It's fantastic for that. Last October, I did 11 of these in the Toronto area with my MSP subscribers, because I want to get to the front of the feedback line. You know, like I want to hear it from the accountant, what they think about it.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, at that last week of February, I'm not doing anything. I will come. It's like $300 flight. I slum it in the motel, and I'll be there. So February 6, 7, 8, tentatively, as of a couple hours ago, going to Wisconsin for business association event. They have the TV stand, maybe a little printer. Where's my little thing? You know, like you print the little cyber scorecard right on site. It's a good little 90-pound paper. You take that, get the conversation started. And I'm like, they're going to give me a little polo. I'll wear their colors, get the convos going.
Wow. So, okay. This is what I'm talking about. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing what you're doing. This is one of the many skills and character traits that you have, which tell me that you will inevitably always rise to the top. And it's what makes me like you. But iceberg aside, here's what I want to ask you. An MSP who's listening to this and they go, I don't want another tool. Or I've already got a tool, but I don't know how to create any conversations, and I'm trying to get people to pay me $2,000 to come and do a cybersecurity audit, but they won't, their incumbent MSPs won't let me. And there's all these roadblocks because it's not the easiest conversation to be like, hey, can I plug a device into your network? Trust me, nothing bad on it. We promise.
Yeah, it requires trust. You have to build trust. Okay, we're hitting the textbook. All right. This comes from, we're doing the book of Alex, $100 million leads, how to get strangers to want to buy your stuff. Right? If you search up his name on the internet,
Alex.
You can't miss him. He's all over.
Can't miss him.
Okay, so your core offer are your managed services. No confusing part there. That's your core offer. That requires a lot of trust. It's not a cliche to say that the managed service provider relationship is a very emotional relationship with the client. It's not transactional. You're not a commodity.
Right.
If you were a commodity, they would go to Microsoft. But you're not. It's a very emotional thing. So that requires a lot of trust. We both learned from ScaleCon that typical managed service clients stay 10 years. So this is a long-term relationship. You got to get them to that level of trust even before they'll feel vulnerable enough, they'll feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable and say, I have a problem that I need solved.
Yeah.
Especially when you do a little situational awareness and realize that like the tech of a business is core to their business. So for them to vocalize like I got a problem here, like I can't have any of my employees working remotely. You know, like I'm sharing private information over email. These are bigger issues with them that they need to solve. They got to feel comfortable enough telling you this because they're not telling everyone. So you got to like work them up that trust ladder. And like there's a magnet on the front of this book because it's about lead magnets. And lead magnets are the way to build trust. Like you find a narrower problem that they may have a solution for that. Like a comprehensive solution for a narrow problem, solve that for them. And then they say, okay, this Brian guy, he seems like a stand-up guy. He helped us with this one thing. You know, I was also thinking we had a problem over here. Let's ask Brian if he can help us solve that problem. Get a little bit more trust. And you work that way up until they say, you know, we've been dancing around this. I'm glad you helped us with this like Microsoft savings calculator. Our real problem is that we have one computer for 40 employees and we really don't know what to do. And then you say, no problem. I've heard about this for other accounting companies. I know exactly what you should do. Here's my idea.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what we need to do is we need to have lower barrier, lower risk opportunities for them to engage with us. We create value and build trust while solving a problem for them that doesn't require them to get into bed on a 3-year, $5,000 a month contract.
Absolutely. That is a great way to say the purpose of that describes practically this sales process. Like you go from a total stranger that does not know you and therefore doesn't trust you to someone that wants to sign up for a 10-year relationship with you.
Yeah. Let's whiteboard some lead magnet ideas. I know you've already got a bunch that you offer, but I think there's dozens of things that MSPs could use as a lead magnet. What are some of the things you're seeing MSPs use as a lead magnet with success?
Some of the easy ones, like the savings calculator. That's an easy one. You know, like free training. You do the lunch and learn how to use Teams, how to use Microsoft Bookings. Yeah. The savings calculator on you're paying Microsoft. And you're also paying Calendly and Zapier and you know all these other things. Savings calculator. Donating the old computers. You know, like the spring training thing. Not spring training, spring cleaning, spring cleaning. You know, donate the computers. You hook them up with the charity. Everyone feels good. They donate the computer. They get whatever $50 off an iPod or I don't know whatever. That there's a lead magnet, and it just gets you face to face with them. You chit chat. You find out about this.
That's a great one.
Yeah, the spring cleaning one I think is hot and it's timely. Like you got 4 weeks to plan it. Find a local charity. Libraries need computers. Make sure you bring the power cords because I've been told that that's the number one thing that they need is power cords because people donate computers, no power cords. But there you go. In the book. And that, go ahead, Brian.
Okay. I was just going to say even that you could have your sales rep in the month of March anybody but accountants. Or I don't know what it's like I don't know what the tax time is in Canada, but here tax day is April 15th. So accountants, you don't really talk to accountants until like May. But you call these businesses, and here's what you have your cold caller do. Because we'll get more into this later, but one of the beautiful things about having a lead magnet is it's not just better for your inbound, but it significantly supercharges your outbound. Mm-hmm. Because the reason your cold calling doesn't work is because you're calling a stranger and saying, imagine calling women that I met online and saying, hi, you don't know me. Would you like to get married?
Mm-hmm. You're propositioning
It's too big of an ask.
Yeah.
You're propositioning them. It's too big. Instead of saying, hey, you and I don't know each other. We do have a few friends in common. And my friend Larry, said that you and I might get along. Listen, I'd love to just chat with you. I wrote you a letter about some of the things that I'm interested in a partner, whatever. I'm making sort of a silly example, but that's why you start in the DMs. You don't start with it. You don't propose marriage in the first date because you have to build trust over time. So you need a first date for these people for your outbound. Mm-hmm. So you need something to go, hey, my name is Brian. I work for XYZ IT company. Listen, I know you don't know us. We're running this promo right now. Anybody, I'm calling you because you're 20 minutes away from my office. Do you guys have anything that you want to donate to get a tax write-off? Do you want to donate to a reputable charity that we have vetted on your behalf?
Local charity that they're going to recognize.
Yeah, a local charity. Here's how it works, Mr. Customer. I can send you all this information so you can vet it all with absolute clarity and know that 100% of what you're donating is going to the right place. You get a tax write-off. We'll drive to your office and pick it up. And all we ask in return is that you let me leave a box of donuts and a box of mouse pads. Sure. Now you're in front of them. You've done something. You've created value for them. And that's a good pillar to start your relationship on because it's a good first impression.
Yes.
And why not? Dude, do that. If it's and just make a short list of people within X miles away from you. Call all of them with that. And then call them again in 6 months with a totally different lead magnet.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That is the practical explanation. The emotional win here is that when they say no, they're not rejecting you. They're just saying, no, the third thing that you mentioned, not you or me, the third thing, I don't want that. You didn't get rejected. Mm-hmm. You don't want to donate? That's okay. You don't have to donate. Who else do you know that might want to donate their computers? So you didn't get rejected. Sure. So your salespeople or you, like talking to business owner, MSP business owner, you will not get rejected. You're not propositioning them. They're not saying, I don't want to give you my business. They're saying, no, thanks. We don't need to donate. We don't have anything here. Yeah. Good. So now you can do it without the fear of being rejected, which is the big emotional hurdle that people need to get over.
Yeah. Right. That's a whole, we could talk for 2 hours on that topic specifically. And even if they are rejecting your core offering, they are not rejecting you. They're rejecting your core offering.
That's a bigger therapy session people need.
Yeah. No, they're not saying you're not good enough. They're saying what you're offering me is not a need that I have.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're any less valuable. Doesn't mean your product isn't worth it. Doesn't mean prospecting doesn't work in your city. It means they didn't need it.
Yeah.
Relax. It's not a big deal. Okay, hang on. Well, I got more lead magnet ideas.
Yeah, go for it.
I think I want to do courses. I think we should set up a simple LMS on a Thinkific, a Kajabi, something like that, and be like courses.yourwebsite.com. Make them free or make them $1 or make them, you have to make an account. Okay. Then you just do user-focused education in the primary applications that you like to support. If you like to support companies who use Sage, go get some regional sales, enterprise sales rep for Sage and be like, hey, dude, do you want me to put you in front of a bunch of people? I will set up an evergreen lead magnet for you. You just give me a 90-minute free training session on Sage. I'll turn it into a course, and I'll even put your number at the bottom of it if anybody wants to buy Sage. Now you get a Sage expert to be like, here's how Sage on-prem works. Here's how Sage Cloud is different. Here's what you would use this for. Windows shortcuts. We were 10 minutes late to this call because Windows sucks. And my stupid Windows computer was not functioning. I'm a lifetime Windows user, so don't get all defensive. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. Sometimes it sucks. But when I learned that you could make a duplicate of your desktop and then you could paddle through them, I was like, oh, I can think differently. Work from home is totally different if I have if I can do whatever it is, Windows Shift Alt
Control window
right.
left to right, or control window 1 2 3 4 5. Yeah.
Yes. If I can say control window 1 is my at work, control window 2 is my lunchtime, I can take a break, pull up my Twitter. Control window 3 is my weekend computer, whatever. Or just show people, hey, did you know you can alt tab through things?
Yeah.
Do you know what the Windows key is really for? Do you know, and just show people quality of life hacks on 30 to 60 second videos and make like 20 of them. And then the title of the video is the outcome that says like have 5 computers in one in 2 minutes. And then you show them what control Windows 1 2 3 4 5 does. Be like, wow, I saved my wrists. I saved myself from carpal tunnel with these keyboard hacks. That's the name of your video. Keyboard shortcuts. I'm telling you, I don't know why people don't do this.
Super power move there is like you do it with the vertically aligned software that, you know, the niche that you want to do is like you find whatever the practice management software, the three most popular practice management software for law firms, do those and say it's for law firms.
Right. That's it. Or then you make one, you could even do intro to scripting. If I was still selling managed services, this is exactly what I would do. I would teach people how to use auto hotkey scripts, and I would be like, fill out this form, tell me what you want your computer to do. I'll write a script for you, a startup script. I'll write a Sage script for you. I will save you things that you have to, anytime you have to click more than 5 times, you just tell me and you'll never have to do it again.
Yeah. That's it.
And do it for free. ChatGPT can write scripts. You could probably build a GPT agent to write scripts for you and call it agent.website.com. You know what I'm saying? Dude, this is just spitballing, just off the top of my head. Then there's the lunch and learns. Then there's the basic, like, you could do the educational webinars, like how to increase your cybersecurity, parentheses, without hiring anyone. And show them, like, hey, the pillars of the lowest hanging fruit is MFA and password manager and face recognition on your Windows Hello. If you do these 3 things, you'll be so much more secure. And let me show you how to do it beat by beat. Let me show you how to set up your own IVR if you use Ring Central, if you're trying to steal people from Ring Central. Let me show you how to, dude, all that stuff, and just make courses, make education, make webinars, make them on demand so that they're easy to access. Who's stopping you from doing that? And I don't see a world where you do that long term and you push traffic to it, then you nurture the traffic after the fact. I don't see a world where you don't generate opportunities.
Right. This is the trend these days. Like, I mean, even this book, the author of this book, like he doesn't pay for ads for this book. He reads the book on YouTube, and then people say, that's great material. Where can I get the rest of the book? It's, you know, that's the free sample lead magnet. And that's the same thing that you're doing with, you do your Sage training. It's a free sample. Like, you're solving a very narrow problem. They're going to have X problems. You solve one of them for free. And then they say, well, this person's, I love that Sage hack. Where do I find out more? Oh, they do all IT. Well, hey, we need an IT person anyways. Give this person a call.
Yeah. Boom. And then you have a next rung up the ladder would be, you could do a paid assessment. I don't really have a problem with paid assessments. I have a problem with the way most people do paid assessments. If what you're doing is a sales pitch, then don't charge for it. If what you're doing is a standalone value, but also introduces people to your products, then I'm fine with you charging for it. But if they're going to get value, whether they ever pay you again or not, then I think you're allowed to charge for it ethically. If not, then I think you're kind of lying to yourself, and you're certainly lying to them. If you charge them $2,000 to just listen to your pitch, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think
that's my little personal opinion.
If it's a lead magnet and you're struggling to get any flow through your sales funnel, then reduce friction. So, which means give it away for free.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't say it's free, say it's complimentary, because that sounds a higher perceived value. If you get too many tire kickers and you're doing too many of these, then add friction and put a price tag to it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you have, that's it. If you have too many tire kickers and you say, oh no, I did too many, I can't spend the time to go do it. Well, either you figure out how to do it cheaper, or you figure out how to do it less often, which means you just qualify out the bad people with better questions at the top and only do it for the people that answer your questions. That's all.
Or even better, in a perfect world, you leave it frictionless and you clarify, you add nuance to the messaging so that the people who are clicking through are the people you want to talk to.
Yeah.
That's how you do it, is you make it so you don't say free Microsoft calculator. You say how law firms are saving hundreds of dollars a month using this free tool. Parentheses, you'll be shocked how easy it is. That's super clickbaity, and now we're looking at law firms, Microsoft users, law firms who are using Microsoft. That might be some of your ideal customer kind of demographics. And you could do all that kind of stuff, like, you know what I'm saying? Like you could use any feature, any psychographic that you want to highlight. You do so in the messaging at the top so that people understand. And the right people will be drawn to it. The people who are the wrong psychographics are less likely to click through. And that's how I built Feel Good MSP. I had a lead magnet that for the first 2 years of Feel Good MSP, you could not book an assessment to learn about my core offer unless you went through my workshop.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even offer my core offer online. I only offered one thing, my lead magnet. And I still run the same workshop. I mean, it's not exactly the same for every month, but I run a $47 3-day workshop, 4.5 hours of training. I only let in 10 MSPs, so I'm not making money on it. And a percentage of them will convert, and most of them will never spend more money on me. I'm 100% fine with that because I'm building goodwill. I'm adding value. It's fulfilling my mission of trying to make a direct impact to our industry. But yeah, and I don't pitch, by the way. I don't even pitch my product in it. It's just like, here you go. Here's a bunch of helpful training.
You're qualifying.
And a percentage of those people, yeah, I qualify, but I don't pitch at all. I never talk about my main product at all in that training because I don't need to. And then the people who are the right fits are going to come through. The people who are not the right fits, they're going to take that. They're going to gain a lot of value, leave me a great review online. And that's how I built this from the very beginning. And I'm just developing more and more of those. We have calculators now and templates, and we're making new lead magnets all the time because this is what business looks like in today's age. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've spit out a bunch of more ideas. Any more we can just get on the record? Other lead magnet ideas?
In this book, Alex gives 3 types of lead magnets: reveal a problem, free trial, and free step 1 of X. Okay, the reveal a problem, those are your like savings calculators. CyberScore is a reveal a problem, quintessential. The free trial, that makes sense. You give away the free laptop or tax receipt if you donate for the spring cleaning. I find the free step 1 of X to be, like the most opportunity for creativity, because there are many steps both of qualifying and onboarding that a prospect transitioning to a customer has to go through, like especially in the onboarding process. If you take them from never having an MSP or having a different MSP to being your client, there's steps in this onboarding process. You're going to have to do them anyways. If you position them as a lead magnet, the prospect perceives they're getting free value. You were going to have to do them anyways.
Yeah.
But I think there's opportunities there to come up with even more, so that by the time, because like your workshop is a type of this free step 1 of X, and it's a good qualifier for you, because if they won't spend $47 and show up to the workshop and participate, they're not going to be a good client.
Then I don't want to. Right. I never want to talk
to
that person.
Don't waste your time on bad clients. They're just going to churn and give you a bad review on Reddit. We've all been there. So this is a free step 1 of X that doubles as a qualification step to find a good client. But the recipient thinks that they're receiving great value. So it's a win-win. They perceive.
But they are receiving great value. They don't just think it. They are receiving great value. I mean, especially not to sound defensive of my case, but like, hey, I'll give you we'll document your entire IT environment for you for free. Well, you were going to do that anyway using IT Glue, and then we'll just spit it out to you in a format that you can do something with. To be like, do you even know what's happening in your environment? We'll document the whole thing. We'll give it to you for free. We'll give it to you for $99. Mm-hmm. And it'll take us 4 hours, 5 hours of work. Do that.
Mm-hmm. Do it up front.
And that's, because and to your point, that's something you would have done in onboarding anyway.
Right. You would have done it after they paid. So they wouldn't have perceived that there's high value, because they pay for the value that they experience already, thinking I'm going to get more. So you give them more free stuff before they pay. And they're going to say, shoot, if I've gotten all this and I haven't paid yet, wait till I pay. So give away all this stuff at the beginning. And then when they onboarding's way shorter now. You already did it all. So instead of 2 weeks of onboarding, it's like 3 days of onboarding. And they're going to say, well, shoot, that was the best onboarding process ever. Yeah, we've already done all the onboarding. Now you're cooking.
This is so, I mean, the takeaway here is, well, there's a lot of takeaways here. This was a really good interview and by far the longest one I've ever had. I thought about stopping midway and making it a part 2. And I'm like, no, we just need to keep talking. But the takeaway from this last section here is, if you're an MSP who's saying nobody understands the value of managed services, you need to take responsibility for that, what responsibility you can, and you need to do what you can to recreate or to re-permutate what value means from a managed service provider. Why not take some of these things that you take for granted, position it as a product, offer it for free or for little, make it frictionless for them to get, as an opportunity to have more and more conversations. Whereas historically, we would just bring them on as a break-fix client because we couldn't close managed services and then hope we could upsell them later. But that, we all know that's a road to nowhere. And that was the same sort of idea, was the land and expand. But this is a much more calculated, truly, I think, much more symbiotic approach than I'm going to sell you an unprofitable product that's going to make me resent you unless you upsell in X amount of time. When in reality now we've just set the wrong expectations. But dude, I don't know how anybody could ever fault you for not being helpful. They listen to an interview like this and go, this guy, look, it doesn't matter if he's got, like, if he has something to gain from it or not, this guy is helping MSPs. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here, is not just because you're a cool guy and your story is exciting, and I liked a lot about you just being opening up and telling that story, but you're doing something that most vendors just frankly won't, is you're actually helping people instead of just helping MSPs sell their own product. You're actually helping people, and I think it's going to go a long way for you, be it in Iceberg and for whatever, every future endeavor you ever have. I think this you've pupated. This chrysalis that you've gone through has made you into a new sort of creature, and you're kind of a freak of nature in some ways. That's really exciting to me, that what you're doing for people.
If you saw my diet, you'd say the same thing.
Right. And your spreadsheet, dude, God, that we're going to make a moment about that. You've got a spreadsheet. One tab says exercise. Yep. One tab says lead gen. The next one might as well be like,
one's my big booty boot camp. That's my exercise one. And then the other one is Operation Holiday. It's not about me going on holiday. Someone asked me that. It's because a great marketing book is written by Ryan Holiday. Yes, the same Ryan Holiday that writes all the Stoicism books, which are equally as good. But that's the Operation Holiday as an homage to Ryan Holiday.
Amazing.
We're hitting all the top business authors, hoping that they're going to comment on this podcast, and we're going to go big.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what, Alex Hormozi certainly doesn't need our little publicity. But I hope he appreciates the shout out, and I love what you're doing, dude.
If you're looking, if you're an MSP and you're listening to this and you think these two guys are full of it, okay, these two books are free audiobooks. Just like, if you're gonna gamble anything, just try that. Go listen to like this chronologically, purple before blue. Go find $100 million offers. You can watch it as a YouTube video. You can read the book. You can do the audiobook. You can do the ebook. It's in every method, okay? Intentionally. Just gamble your time on that. Give me 2 hours. It worked for me. It may very well work for you. What else do you have to lose?
I love that you're in the final pitch of this podcast. You're not even pitching your product. You're pitching a free product of somebody else's. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you and learn more about what Iceberg is doing, why don't you give us a real quick, like, what is Iceberg doing, and how does somebody get a hold of you if they want to learn more?
We're the magnet part of this cover art. Cybersecurity lead magnets. So you have something fun to break the ice with a prospect so you don't feel salesy. We got our cyber score, put in someone's website, 30 seconds later, cyber score, email security, dark web, website security, fun conversation material. And then the next level is a plug and play cyber risk assessment. You plug this little computer in, salesperson only, no technicians, 24 hours later, vulnerability report. Like the same tools that you've probably tried before and had your technicians spend hours doing. I'm just trying to wrap it in a plug and play way so you can operationalize it for sales and talk to more people and get them to feel comfortable telling you about their problems. If you hear their problems, then you can pitch them and maybe you can make some money.
I love it, man. And I'll have a link down to that in the show notes of this video. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for being on with me for so long.
My pleasure. Double feature.
I appreciate it.
We're the Quentin Tarantino double feature of MSP podcasts right now.
Yeah, right. I'm glad you're here, man. Thanks everybody for sticking through this long episode with us. Thanks for just sticking with the show in general. As always, you can reach out if you have any questions. Go out, get this stuff into the business, and happy selling. See you, Mike.